Hi everyone and welcome. I just want to say a quick howdy before we start tonight. My name is Elliot. I'm the events manager at Big Blue Marble Bookstore. We're a little indie-owned and lesbian-owned bookstore in the Mount Airy neighborhood of Philadelphia. We turned 15 in November. We thought we would have a big party. We may have a big party on Zoom. We're just getting back to doing events after everything that has happened this year, and really, really thrilled to be bringing in Adam and Eric tonight for a conversation. They are absolutely why our store exists, and so we're really thrilled to have them here and to be bringing them to all of you. So thanks so much.
Thank you all for having us. Love it, love it. I mean, I thought it would be perfect because Eric is Mr. Philly, and then we got a Philly bookstore, so I feel like we couldn't do an Eric event without repping Philly bookstores here.
Yay!
Yes. All right, so thanks so much for everybody for joining us here. But yeah, today's you're joining me on a Surrender Your Sons tour stop here. So for everybody who's probably viewing this is well aware that this book did not have the simplest road to publication. So I thought it would be a perfect match to have my wonderful agent, who is also another wonderful author in his own right, get on here. And we could maybe just really hash out a lot of some tips and tricks and secrets, because he and I even have had a twisty road to becoming agent and an author. So so Eric, how did this happen? How did it all get here? How did this happen?
Oh goodness, it is a wild trip. So I first became aware of Adam on social media, thanks to Twitter. If you don't follow Adam, you absolutely should. He is a delight. He was oftentimes on there just promoting really great queer books. He was a great just booster of everyone in the kidlit community. So when he started querying, he hit me up with his novel, with the original draft of Surrender Your Sons, circa 2016, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2016.
It's I'm gonna be like a little gag. It was this.
Oh my god!
It was the
original.
Yeah, it was this thing. I don't know if you could. So everybody who can read here, it says book 2, Connor.
Wow. Okay.
What does that mean, book 2? So this was the original 2013 draft. So my journey, I was on this road for about 3 or so years before Eric even, I even started querying Eric. So book 2. So what this originally is this was originally, I came from the world of film. And I had written a screenplay of like a superhero kind of pilot, and it was and I don't even know if Eric, you know all the details of this, but it was it was an ensemble, and then one of the superheroes' names was Nightlight, and his secret identity was Connor Major. And so when I left the world of film, and I was like, I always wanted to write some book, and I didn't really know what I was going to do. I thought of doing these sort of origin stories for each of the heroes, and I really only wrote 2, because turns out writing a whole book for each origin story is daunting. And I had never written a book before, so I was like, yeah, what I'm just gonna do is I'm just gonna do it, and yeah, that's really what really this became. And I was like, oh, I wonder what his origin story would be, and I kind of wanted it to be this revenge extravaganza thing where he was marooned on this island where he had also been imprisoned in this conversion camp, kind of a mishmash of ideas. And then it was going to be and then there was just going to be, it was going to be an abs. It was adult. It wasn't YA at the time. And so it was going to be like a total slaughter. And he was just going to emerge sort of bloodied from this island and then become this, superhero. And then we'd lead into the story that we know. So that's really where this all came from. And then it turned out there was way too many ideas at first. So that's probably the version I gave you.
Yeah. Because I remember getting it, and I read it, and I there was so many really cool things in it. And then I emailed you back, and I was like, maybe we can get rid of the powers, if this was contemporary. And I know some other agents told you that too, right?
Yes.
While you were pitching around.
Yes, I listened to none of you. I was like, thanks, but no thanks.
um, but like my wife had been such a big fan of Adam online, that I told Adam, I was like, I'm gonna tell him that when he's ready to pitch things around again and make sure he thinks of me. And I think it was maybe like a month later. My wife was nudging me. She's like, "Whatever happened to Adam? Have you ever emailed Adam? Did you email Adam?" I was like, "Oh, I gotta email Adam." So I emailed Adam. I was like, "Hey, I hope you're still working on this stuff. Like, if you're ever working on something new, make sure you email me." And like, I just made it very clear that I wanted to hear from him again.
Which,
Yeah.
like Eric, I have to tell you that is not often done, or at least it wasn't often done to me. So this was something that I had gone through many queries and had, I'd never really gotten like a mean rejection or anything. Like it was all very nice and
Hmm?
or form or something. But there was just something about that because you and I had at least, talked a bit, and it was just so, and it had come around October because it was around the time where yours, mine's, and Nina's fave, Caleb Rarick, was debuting with Last Seen Leaving.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that was around that time because I remember like that was sort of when we were all kind of talking
Hmm.
a lot more again because I think it was like Nina, Caleb, and I had like done a lot of like talking on Twitter around that time because we were like, Caleb was putting his book out, and
He was
I was,
obsessed with Caleb.
Caleb was great, and then there was this like election coming up in a few weeks that we were all a little worried about, but it was going to work out. Um, and that was something where it just probably was just a very fortuitous time because that email came at the right time because um, I was in the middle of Pitch Wars. I was
Hmm.
taking this to Pitch Wars, still with the powers, and I really thought the problem was just it wasn't well written enough or something. Um, but it turned out to just be one of those things where, and then Pitch Wars really was the end of the road for the powers part of the book. That was something where, and it was such a great Pitch Wars crew. It was like some of the greatest. I mean, like Tomi Adeyemi was in that group. Like Kosako Jackson was in that group. Like it was just
Hmm.
fabulous writers, and it was like rocket ship to the moon for like so many people. And then it was just one of those things where like it just really wasn't clicking for me because this and then I had enough. I think I had another agent who had rejected it again, who had just said, like, listen, it's just, I can't look at this again without, this kind of change to it. Um, and, uh, and that was it. And that was really a thing where I maybe took 6 months off completely away from it. And then just did a big gut renovation on it. I was just like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a new category. It's going to be contemporary. It's just going to get way simplified because there was, on top of the powers, there was 6 or 7 different subplots. Like there was like each character had a different. It was like a big TV show because that's what had originally brought it from. Like it
Hmm.
was just there was all this different soap stuff happening. It was an ensemble, and it was getting weighted. And then there was this core mystery, this mystery of a former camper from decades ago named Ricky Hannigan. That was the one that was really sort of drawing folks in, but I had only shown it a little bit. Um, and so it really wasn't until I was just like, all right, we're cutting out everything that has to do with anything fantasy at all. And then we're gonna sideline everybody, and we're gonna just do this Ricky mystery, and then we're just gonna see how interesting it is with just normal Connor, just normal Reverend, and the whole camp is the only thing we're doing here is looking at conversion therapy and looking at the effects it had on these people. And it turns out that was more than enough. That was the right chemistry experiment because then I emailed you, and I just was, and I even like I almost didn't email you. I almost like didn't. I'm telling you, you can thank Phil Stamper and Caleb because I was in a group chat. I'm still in a group chat with them and Kevin Savoy, and I was just like, I feel really great about this, and I really, Eric just seems like the agent, but like he turned this one down, and the Twitter industry says, don't you dare send me the same book again, or you're going to jail, author jail. And so I was really scared. I was like, oh, Eric's gonna be mad at me, and he's gonna like be like, how dare you send me the same book? And they were just like, they really were just like, just do it, like all that. And then I emailed you, said, hey, Shot in the Dark, I totally redid it. Took a year, gutted it. it might as well not even be the same book anymore. And I feel like within 2 weeks you were giving me the call. So
Oh yeah, it was super fast. Yes, author jail.
it was great. Everyone's terrified of it because I don't know. There's definitely there's definitely a fear. I think newer authors they just don't want to do it's all they don't want to do the wrong thing, and I think that can really stop people from doing stuff because they also don't want to be known as like they don't want to be one of these people that they see get roasted on Twitter who are like full stalker bad people, who are like
Yeah,
harassing people.
yeah, and I do wish authors wouldn't feel, I guess, so precious about that, because like so much of an agent's job ends up being like pestering the hell out of editors to like please read this book and like following up and having random phone calls. Like we do it on our side of the business, so like
Yeah.
I expect writers to be like, hey, like it's okay.
Well, I mean,
Uh,
up till this very week, I'm still doing things like, hey, oh my God, I'm nudging about this, but also, oh, I'm sorry to be a pain, blah. Like 2 years later, you're still like, it's fine to ask a question.
It is fine. It is
Right,
fine. So
right.
so yeah, so you pitched me the book in I guess in like 2017, right? When you had rewritten it.
It was 2018. It was almost 2 years later.
And of course, 2 weeks later, I'm like, yes, I want this book. Adam kind of found out before I could tell him because my wife like tweeted a picture of me and said like, "Here's Eric loving Adam Sass," and I'm like, "Don't do you can't do that," but she
It
did.
was it caused such a hailstorm of excitement in my phone when she tweeted that. It was like, because I had, at that point, I had been querying this book for 4 years.
Oh boy.
So it was like, oh, it's happening. And not just like happening, but like happening with the agent that I really, really, really was fingers crossed, lighting candles wanted.
Oh man, that's so
So
funny. So but yeah, and then we signed up but one of the I feel like fun wild things about the whole thing is that like I feel like wasn't it like a year to the day we sold the book, right? Or we got the
it was literally like 4 years from it was it's weird. April is like my magic month for this book because it was like I started writing the book in April 2013. Then I started querying the book April 2014. Then I got agented April 2018. Then we sold it April 2019. So it really was like by the end, like by the time we were reaching April, I was like, it's the month. Like I just knew it was the month.
ride.
Yeah.
Then like I feel like the book had like a real it also had like a tumultuous journey as it was getting pitched on my side of things.
Yes.
Because for those of you who read the book, I'm sure some of you haven't yet. It's a YA thriller slash horror slash sometimes comedy about a teen who gets swept away to a conversion camp on the it's
Yeah.
the premise is terrifying, but at the heart of it, there's this like self-deprecating dark humor. And I'll never forget like pitching this around and having people say like, I don't get it. It's not allowed to be funny, but it is allowed to be funny. Like
It was what it, and like I feel the more we were on sub, the more relieved I felt that was not just something you got, but that was the thing you liked the most about it.
Yeah.
Because like this is something we talk about a lot, my friends and I, which is just like a lot of queer people. It was so important to me thematically that I even wrote it in the author's note at the beginning of the book. Where it's like a lot of queer people use humor as a way to compartmentalize trauma, terror, fear, anxiety, a lot of that. Like it's a if you follow any of us on Twitter, people in general, like a lot of people really like it was not a thing where I was like, you know what, I'm going to set out to write a comedy. What I did was I was like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw sort of an avatar of myself into this into this like terrifying world. And then I'm just going to go, okay. And that was always the question for me, was just like, if this had happened to me, what would I, how would I react? Like, would I, like, how would I process each one of these moments, these little horrible moments? And a lot of times, like my gut instinct, because I'm kind of a plantster, like I will outline, but really when I'm in there, I'll be like, I won't ignore an intuition. Like, I'll just be like, oh yeah, it's, I'm just gonna like, you know, what I would say is this. I would make a cheeky reference to an old movie right now or something. Like I would like if something like terrible was happening, and this has happened to me where like something really bad is happening, and I'll just be like, oh my God, this is just like that movie where blah 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 blah, and I'll crack a joke.
Yeah, use
Um,
it to cope, you know? Yeah.
it's how you, I mean, and it was a thing, and I think we had a lot of people. Maybe if they didn't get it, I feel like a lot of people like people who did get it were still cautious or weren't sure how they would um, sell that, how they would like market that. Like they'd be like, I love it, me, the reader, a person, but like, how does this fit into my catalog? How does this fit into our thing? Like, how would I take this around to, buyers, Barnes and Noble buyer, and like, and how would I say like, what? It's kind of funny. He gets taken to this camp. Like it's weird. It's like a weird
Yeah.
thing, but like it's when you read it, you know. And I think the humor is not so much intentionally like, oh, I'm gonna write a joke into this thing.
Mhm.
It really was just like um, that's just the way I kind of talk and be voicey. And I think it was just one of those things where it was just too part of the DNA to the thing. I knew that could never be revised out.
Yeah, yeah, and and then I remember, speaking of people who didn't get it, and we were running into that frustration. I remember as we were pitching it around, I brought up Flux, because in my writer life, I wrote a very weird book about an adopted kid in Philly who basically discovers her birth mom is a tree, and no one in publishing got it. And I talked to her, I was like, I wrote this book that no one else got, and Flux got it, and they get sort of challenging books. Let's try
Yeah.
them. And like I'll never forget like the wildly enthusiastic email I got back from Mari, who's here in the chat right now, who was just like, I need this book. This book is amazing. Oh my! She just went on and on and on about how much she loved it,
Hmm.
and I cried a whole bunch because we were fighting so hard for this book. And like
Yeah.
sometimes you just need to find that person. Like, and Adam, I feel like you've been lucky finding those people. Like
It's weird because like I feel like this, and anybody who's watching who has like been rejected a billion times, here's what I will say is that like you do eventually find the person who's like, because Flex and Mari in general, and Eric too, like just that you kind of have a little bit of a gambler spirit where you're a little like, I don't know how I would sell this, but ooh, I know I love it, so I'm gonna, that's enough, you know? And I feel like that can really, really, really pay off. And it's certainly paid off for me. Oh my God. Um, and that's something where like it was tough because at a certain point, I was like, oh God, I don't know. Cause we had like, we had gone through like, we had gone through several rounds. But like, I mean, but even then it was like, it didn't feel like we had been on sub forever. Cause I had talked to people who had been on sub forever with people who like, didn't get it and they had to shelve it and then go back. And I was to the point where I was like, okay, well, we shelve, but I didn't know that you had like, definitely like whole bunches of people in mind. But then when we went to Flux, it was magic immediately. And from the very first conversation with Mari, it was just, it was very clear that like all the core things, like got it. And that was it because I knew I'm like Mr. Revision and I can revise anything or whatever and be like, you know what, that's even better than the idea the first time and I can still make it me. But there's always 3 or 4 core things that like you can't revise out. And those 3 or 4 things she like zoomed in on immediately and got. And I've been very fortunate to like have those people that find me eventually. And even now, as it's freshly out and finding readers, I'm still very confident that like it's going to find the people it needs to find, because that's always been in the DNA of this book. It does just kind of like divining rod find folks.
And now here we are,
Here we are.
Years later with 2-starred reviews, out, and it's the first book that Flux has ever done in hardcover.
It's beautiful. Like, I mean, like, come on, like, imagine going from this monstrosity to this. Like, this is who's selling this book? Like, this is the thing. This is what you want. And it's one of those things where it's like, I would just say to everybody watching, like, embrace rejection. Like, if you've read my acknowledgments, I say, I even call out 2 agents by name in the book who turned it down, which might be a no-no, but I was just like, thank you. You literally saved my life, saved this book. And I one of them is why it is YA, and one of them was the reason there's no powers in it. It just, you learn your best lessons from rejection.
Absolutely. So I don't know, we've been talking for like a half hour. Do we
My God.
do we answer questions, or
Let's throw it to a Q&A.
I don't know. All I know is I'm very happy this book is out, and I'm so grateful for Flux to
Agreed.
take Adam and his wild book under their wing. Like, it's so beautiful. It's this is the thickest book out of all my books on my agent shelf. Look at this
It's thick.
It's a chunky boy. I love it.
It's a big chunk. It's funny because like it was because it's one of those things where
Sorry, the question.
Rita something. Oh my God, I haven't even cracked this open. So yes, I will read in just 1 second. But this is another thing about like Flux, is that I was worried that I was going to be like, oh, I'd have to cut something out. And Flux definitely was like, no, we need like a few more chapters in here. So like it was like, I think it was like a lean 90K something. And then I think it ended up probably being around 115K words.
Yeah. Don't tell anyone, because I always complain, like, I don't want books over 100,000 words.
Well, I would say once you're in the zone where you're like selling it to agents or whatever, I mean, where you're selling it to publishers, at that point, it's like, okay, then yeah, you're gonna do that. Okay, so Eric, entertain folks while I find an appropriate section. Includes powers for folks.
415 pages. Whew.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna jump to. Oh my God, what a piece of junk this book was. So this is something I am doing. I promised this on other Zooms that I am, but and I don't even need to be held to this, because I will be doing this probably around around Thanksgiving, Christmas time, is that once the book's been out for a while, what I will do is I'm going to be releasing probably a 1 to 2 page synopsis of the original, like, so everyone can see. Ooh. It was always about Connor versus the Reverend on this island conversion camp, and there was escape in the end. That's always, it's been that, but like this will go truly into how wild it was. Oh my God. We didn't even get into the island for like 150 pages. I'm still flipping. There's all this before crap. Okay.
I mean, and the other wild thing about your journey, Adam, is you managed to get like one of the biggest film agents in the industry, which is really exciting.
I'm very excited about that. We're with Gotham Group, and this has always been something that, like, I came from the world of film, so I'm like desperate for this to become a movie, a show, a musical, a flip book, whatever. I don't know, like whatever. And speaking of things that also could be, Wednesday, Caleb and I will be on Murder by the Book. We were going to be doing a Surrender Your Sons themed Clue game. So we got the board. My friend David has made a game board with all the different locations and everything. It's going to be great. But yeah, with Gotham, that's another thing right now where we're in the same, and it's weird. I have this weird confidence, selling movie rights on other things too, because I'm just like, it's to this, it's to that. I'm just like, we'll find the person who's weird, who's going to want it. There's one weird person out there who's going to want it and is going to roll the dice on it, and it's going to be great, and it's going to splash. That's the thing with when you have that many rejections. If you have like that much, it really just does it for you. Okay. All right. I'm getting closer there. This is going to be way worth it. In the meantime, everyone keep adding in some questions there.
Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have goldfish crackers here,
Oh my
Adam.
gosh. So goldfish
I have sweet
crackers.
fish. But that's
Yeah.
yeah.
Goldfish crackers factors heavily into a very spooky scene in the book.
Ruined goldfish crackers.
Ruined. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. Everyone is watching me do this. I should have probably assumed we were going to do this at one point. Okay. So there's multiple powers that Connor has in this thing. One of them is lightning bolts, shoots lightning bolts out of his hands. And then the other one is telepathy. And his telepathy, the one of his is telepathy, but it's actually close to what he does in this book is a little close to a Zoom call, because what he does is he's able to bring other people's consciousnesses into his own. So him and all the other campers can psychically communicate together. He sort of creates a Zoom room basically in his head for people to enter, and then they can plan against the camp in secret. So this is kind of one of those, situations right now. Okay. Okay. So where is this section? Okay.
Lauren asked,
You know what I'm gonna do? We're gonna keep answering questions, and then we will wrap up with something, because I'm gonna keep it in the back of my head.
Okay.
Thank you, Anna. You got a stumper of a question there, because I'm terrified to read anything from this book because it's all junk. Or also it does spoil like a moment in the actual book, because it is still weirdly like laced in, because it's like, oh, I mentioned the killer in that scene, so I can't really do that. So here it says, how did the revision and submission process affect your writing process? It just made me really cool with taking notes. Like I don't like it's very hard for me to take notes personally, as I did in the beginning, because you just kind of get stuff thrown at you. Also, I was in a job as basically a quality control person. I was a copy editor, researcher, so all I did was red pen everything. So I think that job also helped me take nothing personally and just go and just really think of everything really as surgery. And you have a document, and I think everybody kind of knows this, but when you write the first draft, it's really just you telling the story to yourself. It's really not for anyone's eyes. As excited as you are to show somebody that first draft, I would strongly urge you sit on that draft for enough time to have your brain miss it a bit, then return to it, read it, and at least do one kind of pass where you're looking at it and you go, oh, this. So I would say that's definitely something where you're gonna want to like keep that in mind, is that when you write this book and when you get to the point where it's this book, you're gonna have touched that story. You're gonna have gone in to surgery on it like 100 times, like 50 times, I don't know, a lot of times. Like, so it's going to be to that point where you're just going to be like, you might have a few key things that you're like not going to budge on, but I would highly recommend you just, if you really, what helps me is that I have a bunch of scratch paper like kind of documents, and I just pull stuff I'm going to cut over there, and it's ended up in later stuff like favorite lines that I have to cut, or scenes. I think even at my launch, I was mentioning that like there was this whole underwater escape scene. It was the resistance against the camp went on for it was such a long book. But there was like an underwater escape scene, and I was just like, this will happen. This will happen again at another point, but I cut it. JC says, at what point in the manuscript did you say, I need this book? Look like that's for Eric.
Oh, at what point? Ooh, such a good question. I feel like it was pretty immediate. Like, well, once we got to the scene where like the mother is, and I don't know, it's probably different now in the Hold on, I'm flipping to the first page here to make sure.
I know, right?
Yeah, things change a little bit from the original to what we have right here.
It's so true.
Yeah, but like it was those first few chapters, and like when the powers were gone, and he's on the boat and he lands on the island. Like it was just like I could tell probably like 10,000 words into the book that it was just like, this is
Mhm.
it. I'm gonna be calling this guy. Um,
And that's
it
it.
was
You
pretty.
can
It was
really
pretty
tell when, I think you can tell when, and I could tell in this book, I knew, I didn't know it when I was querying, for that first few years, but I knew when I was writing this version that I was like, this one is working. I had the buzz was there. I could feel it in me. You can feel when the chemistry experiment isn't breaking the beakers. It's like actually working and it's doing the thing it's supposed to be doing. Um, let's see. Oh, Sawyer's asking what Pitch Wars class were you? I was last year's class. This was a 2016 Pitch Wars class. This was very, very cool folks. Yeah, Anna Birch was in that one, and who was doing I Kissed Alice, and gosh, so many folks. Like if you look up that Pitch Wars 16 class, like that was just like, oh my God, so many cool people in that one. Um, um, Lauren Grossman says, do you know what page this is? I just got my copy today and would love to follow along. Oh,
Oh,
I'm not sure
he's
what
talking
page.
about the superpowers and stuff.
Oh my gosh, no, this is not this is, it's not existing in any way right now. That was committed completely purged. It is a totally real life horror fest this time. Sky asks, have you found it difficult to write with 2020 being 2020 and all? And what kind of advice would you have for aspiring writers? I don't know if it's 2020, but promoting a book and then writing another book is hard, very hard. So I'm sure Eric, you'd back me up on this, and I would say
Yeah.
when you're selling your first one, and if you just after you've sold your first one, usually there's a period of like a year and a half to 2 years where you're going through revisions and they're kind of building up your platform and you're building buzz and momentum and you're just waiting for that release that first year after you sell. That is the time to write your next book, because you do it. If you try to write that next book, like the closer you get to that date, your head starts filling up with more and more garbage bags. And there's stuff you got to do. And there's like, it's like when you sell it, that's the time to be like, that's the clock is ticking, like write that next one. So I would say, in general, for writers who have are still working on their debut, I would just say, um, keep those word count goals very low and manageable, because nothing makes me do 0 words more than a high word count goal. I would say the more I'm like, oh, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do 2,000 words, and then I'm gonna do 4,000 words the next week, and then I'm gonna do 10,000 words. Like it just the higher you get, it seems like, oh, I'll just leap up to that next ledge on the rock I'm climbing. Like it's like, no, that's how you fall. Like you really just have to. For me, like I just write a little bit every day, even if it's like 1 page, even if it's just I go over the last thing. Because I think the other thing that's important, it's not so much the word count, but it's for me, it's because um, I'm very intuitive and I'm very left brain. It's very hard for me. I don't naturally organize things. Like I'm like it. I'm organized. I am organized, but that's through enormous effort. It does not come naturally. So what I do really, it's really more like putting myself in a trance when I write. So the longer I'm away from something, the harder it takes for me to get back into it. So I just, even if I just read through it a little bit, just to keep my brain in that world, just to keep that familiar. So it's a little less like, oh, I need to do that. And also lastly, I would recommend um like don't end your writing day at the end of a chapter. Like try to do it in the middle of something, because like your brain will just be like, oh, finished. And like it's harder for me to like chapter 1, like that blank page. If you're in the middle of like a paragraph. I would just be like, oh, great. See, that's why you just need those little two rocks flinting together to like start it the next time. So you'll be in the middle of that paragraph and you'll at least be on the road to doing something. Um, Eric Brown says, were there any big picture edits with Flux that stumped you and took a lot of work to finally figure out? Didn't stump me, but there are two very important chapters near the end, which would not exist if Mari hadn't just said, please resolve that. Because I was so like, I had come from 6 years of being a Twitter aspiring writer, you know, and that just tricks you into going like the word count. We're almost to 99,000 where we can't possibly write anymore. Like, and so I was just like, I was like, we're just going to end. We're just at the end. Like it was a little abrupt. And then I jump right to the epilogue, which is about, 5 months later. And then there were 2 chapters at the end that Mari was just like, we got to see this in action and we got to see this part and we have to see how this resolves. And and they're 2 of like my favorite chapters now. And they came so late in the game that I'm like, I can't believe that these didn't exist before anything else. So they weren't stumpers, but it was definitely like, okay. Okay, so Anna says, I would say it's even harder this year, though. Yeah, I mean, like, it's harder this year to write 100%. I mean, I think we can all agree on it. It's harder to do anything. It's harder to like get out of bed, do your normal thing. Like it's that takes some effort now. I'm normally such an early bird. I'm getting up at 8 now. Never got up that late before. Like I'm just getting up at 8. I know that sounds like wow, but I'm normally getting up at 6 a.m. And I got up at 6:30 today and I was like, oh my God, I feel like my old self again. It's hard. It's hard to do all this stuff at once because also like on top of the COVID stuff and the election stuff looming and everything, that's on everybody's mind. I'm writing another thing and also about to debut for the first time during the election time when everybody's maybe not everybody's reading, but people are reading, but maybe they're not like reading as much as they normally do. It's harder for people to get through their TBR piles, maybe, or not. Everybody's kind of responding to this differently, but there's just a lot more stuff you have to hold in your head. So my feelings and heart goes out to everybody who's trying to hold all this stuff in your head right now. John asks, what has surprised you the most about the publishing process? Just how no one's out to get you. Like everybody literally wants you to like succeed and do the best. Like it's not like the people who are like, I debuted on September 15th along with literally everyone else in publishing. Like it was the same day and it was like 15 of us. And there was a moment where I was doing retreating to my old thing of just being like, oh my God, everybody else is coming out on my day. But like that doesn't matter. Like literally everybody is just like, they're buying all the books that day then. And everybody on that date really turned out for each other. And they're all some of like the greatest people and some of the like greatest writers that I'm just like, me in the same day as this person. And it's cool. So I think that's the thing is I think going into this, if you're new in the process, it's please understand that like agents, when they read your manuscript, they want to say yes to you. Editors want to say yes to you. They want to be excited. Readers want this to be the thing that's like their new favorite thing. So I found that I had a lot of the benefit of the doubt putting my book out like this during this time because it was everybody was just like so cool and nice and especially during COVID, when COVID hit, everybody just was like, okay, we're gonna figure this out and we're still gonna support everybody. We're gonna lift up people who need to be lifted. And it's just been really amazing. So I would not go into it with the mindset of like they're giving you a form rejection because like they hate you and think you should quit. Like it's just they have the time. That's what they have the time for. And I would just say it behooves you to just do your best. Do your best, but also be your most you, be the most you, because the more you do that, the more you're not like trying to be some other writer or do the thing you think is going to sell. The more you're just like, they're looking for something and they know when they see it, and you're just like, here's what I'm working with, and I've refined the most me, and here's the most me and my most voice. That's every time I've shown and proceeded on to the next step has been when I've just like really stopped trying to control all of this and just be like, here's my thing. Promo too. Like I was like, I don't know if this is how I'm supposed to promo. I was just like, I just know I like fun little movie posters, and I'm really and I had a job where I was doing design, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna do these like cards and promo cards, and I'm just gonna be excited about my own shtick. And then it just ended up being like the thing, you know, people kind of got really juiced up over it. So Anna says, on a level of not at all to Caleb Rarig length outlines, aka 30 plus pages, how much do you outline? 2 pages, nothing. Like it's enough of a skeleton to like just go, here's 3 acts, and then here's like, so I have more like moments that excite me. Like it's more like, okay, we're gonna have this character do this thing, you know, like for people who've read it, I was like, I have a character named Miss Manners. I was like, okay, Miss Manners is gonna have this class. Something will happen there. Then here's this moment I'm looking forward to. Here's this location they go to, and this will happen. And then this is the person who's the real killer, and then this is the, you know, all of that. And then I kind of just navigate between those points. Eric, how much do you outline?
Oh, I do the Caleb thing. My the
I've
book
seen
that
your
I had that's
yeah.
going to be shopped around soon. It's I don't outline as so much as I write the whole synopsis. So I'll write like a 20-page synopsis of everything that happens in the book, and then I write to fill that in.
You really do. I've seen, and like you're one of the few like tanks in my life where I'm just like, where you're like, hey, what do you think about this, you know, synopsis? I you know, I had a few extra hours in between, you know, sleep and the kid, and like it'll be like a thing that would take me so long to do, and it's like perfect, and the acts are there, and it's just,
Oh, you.
yeah, it's the tank. So great. Yeah, you know, Elliot says it's 33 times harder to be selling books right now too. Absolutely, that's why please buy indie, and you know, Big Blue Marble is not shipping books at all, but if you're local to Philly, you can still pick them up from there. Also, you know, go to Bookshop. Surrender Your Sons is back ordered right now. What? But you can still order from your local indie. Call your local indie, search it up, or, you know, do what you can there, but see what we can do to support. Or you can order from Flex directly, because the stock is still there. It's just COVID is like slowed. I don't know if you've noticed, but like COVID has slowed everything down and has made things difficult. That's what COVID has done. Russell Falcon says there are a lot of characters in Surrender Your Sons. How did you manage to keep all the voices clear in your head? How do you manage stories with lots of characters? I just like ensembles. I'm drawn to those stories in general. So if anything, people will tell me to like, hey, cut that character. Uh, you know, there was a lot more characters in other versions. The campers were like 20 campers. Now there's 12. So what I like to do is go through and see if you feel like the characters are getting redundant in any way. I would say find 2 characters who are really serving the same purpose and then combine them. Because I feel like that's when I'm watching like a movie, usually like a Marvel movie or something, because like they're normally pretty good. But like sometimes I'll be like, oh, that character does the same job as that character. You just combine those characters, and then that character is like stronger, then that becomes like mecha character. But I would say that's for me. What I like to do is I just find like, because I'm not just a film person, but I have a degree in theater performance. So what I do is I come from it sort of from an actor's point of view, which is every character sort of has like a tangible thing about them. Connor's thing is his flute, which I have, which are now going out to people who did the pre-order campaign, but there's like little icons that I really attach to them, or some big broad character trait. Like if you think about the original Star Wars, which does like, you know, archetypes and that sort of thing, you really get into a flattening process when everybody is sort of like normal. Like that's why I'm like, I really tried very hard to not have Connor be like a one-to-one analog with me. It was just going to be, Connor was going to be the sassy one who didn't take it seriously, and then Marcos was going to be like the nervous one, and he had and he like snaps his fingers because he has like you know, like a ton of trauma. And then we had Molly, who's going to like go super physical and, you know, literally is just like that like the whole time. So I kind of took an actor's point of view to that. That's the answer. And Lauren says, I work at the Free Library of Philadelphia, and a lot of people are coming to the library now that we are open. Glad to see people still reading and still using the library. Yeah, libraries also, on top of indie bookstores, libraries are so important right now. And you can help out the community by ordering books like Don't Read the Comments and Surrender Your Sons at your local library. And let's see, Sawyer says, one of the things I love most about Surrender Your Sons is that there's a healthy, consensual, safe sex content. Was there editorial pushback? Literally never. Like maybe in like some phrasing, like here and there in like, but like normal syntax stuff where it was like, oh, that's confusing, I don't see how that works. There was really never any, because there is sexual content here, there was no pushback editorially from like, should we include this or not? Because it does come quite naturally out of, you're in this environment where even like you know, a boy like touching the other boy on the shoulder or shaking hands gets you in trouble. So of course it had to build up to this point where you know, where there is going to be like, where touch is going to be extremely important. So yeah, and it's safe sex content as much as there can be. You know, there's not a CVS pharmacy on the island, but there was a lot of, you know, there was a lot of you know, there's a lot of making sure everybody's very comfortable with it, because that's something that Connor is has a ton of discomfort with, and it's in where he's has sexual feelings, but he has a lot of that's part of a lot of his upbringing, and within the church is that he, you know, needs things to go a certain pace, and he had maybe been with a boyfriend before who's not at that pace. And so part of the comfort that he finds in this book is that it's like, okay, someone who understands that there's, you know, that it's really about making sure that you know, like there is that connection there to be, if it's as little or as far as whoever each of them want it to be. So thank you for that question. John says, do you have a specific critique partners or a writing group? If so, how did you find that community? Yeah, I have a great group chat. I have some of the best folks on the planet. I have a core group of friends. Also, if you read the acknowledgements, I have like 50 beta readers over 7 years for this book. So, but I would say, like, I would caution you against more is more. I would caution you against having a family member read it unless they are dying to read that book. I would not be like, so I noticed you're watching a show and I gave you that book 3 weeks ago. Because you're just going to end up, especially right now, you're going to end up in like a not great situation. So yeah, I would just say find somebody who's like going to give you somebody who's going to be honest with you, and then somebody who's going to, you know, like read it quickly if they're just like a super reader. So whether you find them online through YA Twitter or through book clubs or anybody, like, but you'll be surprised who's looking to read your stuff. Yeah, Lauren, I'm also a performing arts major. The background really helps with writing. It really does. That's why I would say, like, as a writer, I felt bad about it for so long. Like, oh, I've had like 17 different jobs and I majored in 2 different things and I'm not using those majors anymore. That's like, a lot of writers have that, because I think writers are supposed to know a little about a lot. So like if you like, I have a friend who's like, oh yeah, like I'm really loves like a few things that are, like there are some of the things that they're very excited about. They were like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be a writer, or if I'm going to do ASL interpretation, or if I'm going to do animal care, or if I'm going to do this other thing. And I was like, well, if you really want to do writer, you can bring all of those other job elements into this. It's just, what do you have like the most like steady for? What are you going to do the most? What can you commit to the most? So I think definitely bring all of your skills into that. And I think the more like haphazard and labyrinthine your working life has been before coming to writing. Eric, what was your path to authordom? Were you just like English major on the way to writing?
Yeah, English major.
Listen, that works too. It was like, I did like smoothie blending, the barista for the longest time. It was great. And yeah, a lot of theater, because yeah, Derek Millman, and oh yeah, yeah, Bookshop and Indies all order from the same company, Ingram. So once a book's out of stock, it's hard to get. Yes, it's interesting. It is hard to, that's another thing when you have a book out, is like, you're just like, you're learning all this stuff on the fly. So now I'm learning about distribution. Russell also asks, I'm sure you've answered this a million times, but if you had to say what the main inspiration for Surrender Your Sons was, what would it be? It was, if you heard me at the top of this, I was mentioning that it was a screenplay. I was going to do like a bunch of superhero origin stories, and I said I wanted to do a revenge extravaganza. I was really like watching stuff like Kill Bill, which I'm a huge fan of. So like that's a big creative wellspring for me, Kill Bill. And so I was just like, I want to do this like big splattery revenge story, but like with queer people. And so it was that. And so it really started from this like big kind of superficial but fun place. And then the more I learned about conversion therapy and like what it really is and what it is not, really kept focusing that. Yes, exactly. Such as they are. Yeah, there's a lot of correlation between librarians who are also writers. The great thing is just like, it can be hard because a lot of authors have to also have another job. Like that's, it's very difficult to like right away out of the bag be like, oh, I'm just an author, because like, as you know, like, Eric, maybe you can speak to this a little bit, where it's and also there's a sort of a changing face of how advances are paid, and how that all chops up. So like, what would, like, if an author was like signing with you and was like, great, oh my god, we're gonna sign, that means I can quit my job right now, right? Like that's
I start screaming. Yeah, because not all book advances are giant book advances. Like they're not. A lot of authors, when they debut, it's $10,000, $15,000, which sounds like a lot of money, but it's not. So it's very important to hold on to your day job. Keep writing, build your backlist. Maybe you'll have that breakout book, which is amazing, and I wish that for everybody, especially my authors. Of course, I want that to happen for them, and myself. Why not?
Yes.
Sometimes it's all about building that backlist and then finally having that that momentum where you can make that jump.
It's so funny. It's one of those things where like even the big advances, if you look at the math.
Oh yeah.
Like if you're like, if you see like, you'll see like an announcement. We've all seen the announcements where they're like, someone you don't know got 6 figures, da da da, and you're just like, person about 6 figures. But like even like that, if it's just like let's just say it's 150,000, it'll usually be for like 2 books, and then advances are like kind of broken up over like 3 pay periods, which can happen over 2 years. So you're really getting like half of that for 2 years. So you're really getting like 75 for 2 years, which is half of that is, let's just say I didn't go to school for math.
Yeah.
It's like, just like, say it's like 40K for the year, which is like, No, you wouldn't. Like if somebody was like, I make 40K a year, you'd be like, a nice modest income. You wouldn't go, you millionaire,
And
stop
that's
it.
also without taxes. That's also not counting your agent's cut. So it's
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the other thing is just like your agent is because like your agent works for you, your agent like works for free with you. Like your agent, like Eric wasn't seeing anything until I saw something. So like that's the trade-off. So that's the thing where it's like really like that's one of those things where I'm going to be forever grateful for you because that was a year of work, before
Oh,
either of us
worth
saw
it next
anything, and then
year.
here it is.
Got it
Oh
in my
yeah,
house.
that's the thing. So I think I think educating yourself like about those kind of basics and really understanding how it's a business. And I've said this before on my friend Kevin the Writer's channel, which is it's really I know we all are like we can't stand when people are like writing is a hobby. It's not a hobby, but also like a job really means like this is how I frame it for myself. A job means like health benefits and a 401k and and regular income. I see this as you're starting a small business or some kind of nonprofit where a lot of the upfront money, the first 2 or 3 or however many years, I mean, I'm sure people at Big Blue Marble can tell us exactly what goes into running like a business, and it's a lot of upfront money, or a lot of like upfront financial uncertainty where you're really paying into it, and a lot of people's first advances, some of that money goes into paying for things like giveaways or swag for the giveaway. There's a lot of like things like that where it's like save that money, save a bit, so that you're able to really pay back into that and keep building that up. Because I run my swag giveaway, and it was like really really fun, and it had a good buzz to it. But like if I had just not put aside money for that, it wouldn't have happened. So, all right. So I think if there's no more questions, we're at the end here. I promise everyone, I know I chickened out on reading a part of the book, but I feel like everyone's going to have a much better time hearing Tools of the Trade than reading from this. But I do promise that later in the year, after the election, sometime post-election, around the yummy pumpkin spice holidays, then there will be. I will stay watching my socials because I will put out some kind of synopsis and maybe some a juicy excerpt from Connor and the gang with Power Ranger powers. Yeah.
I'm excited to see it.
It's terrible. Yeah, and I know I promised, but I'm telling you, like I can't even find like I'm so unfamiliar with this version. It's all just like it's a mess. It's like totally a mess. But it will come. That day will come. All right. So thank you so much to everybody who is here and to Big Blue Marble Books who have graciously hosted us. If you are in the Philly area, please buy your next books from them. They are open for curbside, local delivery only. The store is not open, but they are still in operation. And then you can buy Surrender Your Sons in many places, probably not Bookshop right now, but keep watching that link. Thank you. But you can get it Barnes & Noble. You can go to Flux's website and order it directly. You can also go to if you want a signed copy, my local Main Street Books Davidson still has signed copies there. And I am able to pop over, sign it, and send it off to you right away. In fact, I did sign a few advanced copies of that, so that can be sent over to you, no problem. And then make sure you pick up Eric's book, which is Don't Read the Comments, which is everybody is in love with book. Everybody loves. And then Eric, what you got coming up?
Oh, me?
You.
Nothing till next year. Yeah, I have a new book called You Can Go Your Own Way coming out next year, and a book called Battle of the Bands coming out in the fall of next year. And maybe there's some TV-related news coming out this week. I don't know.
You heard it here first. Oh my gosh, breaking news. All right. So thank everybody for watching this. I've recorded this, and so I'm going to be probably at sometime the next few days posting this in a nice handy place where if anybody wants to get hold of this fabulous advice again, you'll be able to. But thank you all so much for this.
Thanks so much, Adam and Eric. It's such great to be able to host a conversation with an agent and an author, and to get that perspective on the process and how hard it is, but also how delightful it is when you find the right person to work with who believes in your work.
It's a joy. It really is a joy. And I wish this for everybody. I mean, because I know, like, because it's the thing, not all agents are as super plugged in and super available, as Eric is, but we love Eric for that. And also Eric has also allowed his free time. So I do sit on questions sometimes, right? The Gmail's new delay function is scheduled email is also very helpful for me. But thank you, everyone.
Yeah, have a good night.
Thanks so much.
Good night,
Good night, all.
everyone. Bye.